All right. Hopefully, with any luck at all, this is the last day we're going to be working on this, other than probably calibrating it. Should have all the stuff, I hope. Got three more lines to run down to the furthest fertilizer. I can't talk today. 3 more lines to run down to the furthest fertilizer coulters over there. The main trunk's got to get run through for filling the tanks and, well, double duty, filling the tanks and feeding the squeeze pump. And put oil in the pump, and I got to get the markers set. I forgot about that. I just remembered that when I was pulling in the driveway. So that's got to get done. But other than that, we are pretty much ready to rock and roll. So, I mean, everybody's been paying enough attention. Well, anybody that's been watching has been paying enough attention to this to pretty much know where we're at. So it probably really doesn't require any further introduction. So I'm just going to get into it. I got all my coulter lines run. I got they're all tied together, so they laid in there nice and clean. Now I gotta mount my obviously gotta get mounts made for my valves that are going on either end for the fill line, and I gotta mount the valve that's gonna go into the squeeze pump. And my original intent was it was going to go here, but that doesn't leave a whole lot of room for anything really. And then I got to looking, and it's like, well, the way it came out, this port would sneak down here underneath the fertilizer bar, and this valve has this 2-bolt flange mount, so I could put this guy right here like this, and it would make access to it really easy. And I'm thinking, because of the way it came out, I'm just gonna run my fertilizer line in front of the tank mounts anyway, because in all honesty, there's not really enough room to make it fit through where your hoses are running. But if I put ring clamps down the front, and I could just string the hose through, and then when I find a set of tanks to put on it, they're obviously going to be valved the same way, so the valve's going to be out here. So rather than snaking the hose in and then out and then in and then out, it can just run all the way along the front. So I'm going to have to get measured up here and make something that'll clamp on the toolbar to hold this valve. I'm also going to flip it over so that it's actually going, because right now when you close it, the valve goes up, and it needs to be flipped over. It doesn't really make a difference, but it would make my OCD less active. So anyway, got to figure me up a way to clamp that to the bar. All right, that turned out pretty good. I got that it wasn't holding much, so I just didn't make a full box clamp. I just a couple pieces of flat stock and made a little ant for it to bolt to, and now we're good. It's a little close. It's on the frame, but I couldn't really drop this down any further because that 1/4-inch hose has got such a heavy wall to it. It doesn't really like to bend in that short of a span, but it's not pressing it. I mean, it'll flow plenty. So that's good. And now I'm going to mount my fill valves, which I've already got put together for the most part. And these guys are gonna go, I was originally gonna mount them out here, but I think I like the thoughts better of putting them here. That way they're inside the frame and kind of protected. So I'm just gonna make a flat plate that'll span that'll span that hole and that hole. I have to cut a scallop out of it so it'll wrap around, and it'll come back here and bolt to the side of that, and then this will hang right there like that. I might turn it that way because I got them put together to where the valves open. I had to flip the handle on one because I put it together to where when you open the valve, the handle's back here. And if I put them both like that, then one valve's gonna obviously flip up and one valve's gonna flip down. But as long as they clear the tank, which they should, because basically it's just gonna be, oh yeah. Because this one will be fine because it flips forward, but the way the other one works, when it closes, the handle will be flipped backwards and you'd hit the tank frame. So if I turn it like that, That will be just fine. And there we go. The fertilizer is, as far as I know, done. I gotta get, there's plugs I gotta put in the end of the manifold on the squeeze pump yet. Those are down in the barn. I can't forget those. But got valves mounted on both sides. I made these guys for holding the hose. I only put 4 on. There's one here, one there. I figured it was pointless putting one there since the valve was right there, and this hose is heavy enough. It's kind of self-supporting to an extent. And then I got one here and here because I figured it was pointless putting one here since the bungs in these tanks are offset to one side and it was just a short run. So but all in all, I say it turned out pretty good. I've been looking at planners, seeing how guys have plumbed theirs up, and I kind of took the combinations of the stuff I liked the most out of everything I saw, and yeah, and did what I liked most. A few of the planners I looked at had two runs going down the entire length of the planner. One was strictly a fill that would like run halfway down the frame and then tee back into the main manifold so that you could fill off of both sides. And then it had the second I'm calling it a manifold. It's kind of basically what it's accomplishing, and then so they'd have the one like right here that ran the entire length of the frame, so you had a valve on both ends to fill out of, and then in the center of the frame it would tee back into a second manifold that ran the entire length of the frame and tied all the tanks together and ran to the squeeze pump. And it's like, why would you run two when you could accomplish the same thing with one? Because basically what I got going on here is when you go to fill, you obviously plug into whichever side you pull up to at the nurse tank, throw your valve open, it's going to fill the tanks, and you come up here and shut the squeeze pump off so that you can't pump into, or can't force anything through the squeeze pump. You're going to fill your tanks, you come back, you crack that valve, and then you close your fill valve, and then you unhook your nurse tank. And then I got individual valves on either, on all the, well, there will be all tanks, but on both tanks for right now. That way, say I get 4 tanks out here and I'm going to do a small field, I don't need to fill the whole planter up. You can shut off 2 tanks, just fill 2 so you're running light, or say I'm down in the muck and it's a little soft and I want to plant light, so I'm only going to use 2 tanks. You shut 2 tanks off and then you're only filling 2. Or if you have an issue with one tank filling, or if you have an issue with the tanks filling unevenly, as you're filling, you can go through and shut tanks off and force it into the other tanks or whatever you got to do. So I might go ahead and make something that stands off of the fertilizer bar just to support these. I mean, they're really not terrible, and these tanks are pretty, I'll bet these tanks are better part of 3/8 thick. They're thick tanks, so, but that might be something I look into doing when I get time, is making a bracket that clamps around here and just supports those valves. That way they're not out here doing that and crack the tanks. So with that being said, fertilizer is done, thank God. So now I think I'm going to go ahead and get my marker arms figured out. So I'm going to sit down and figure out what I got to do as far as a dimension off the center line. Actually, yeah, it'd be the dimension off the center line. So go from there. Okay, so from center line to center line, which is basically from the center line of the planter to where the marker blade needs to be hitting the ground, is going to be 240 inches. Basically, just take 8 rows, multiply them by 2. Or multiply them by 30, not 2. 8 rows times 30, that gives you your center line to center line. I have not run the markers on this thing since I plumbed them, so they're going to have air in them. But I'm going to... where's a good spot to do this? Might spin sideways here. Should be fine. Keep the tractor out of the yard that way. You're going to want to set these markers up as if you're planning. So you want to set the planter up, or you want to put the planter where it's going to be in the field as far as yeah, height and everything. And you want to try to be somewhat level. So we'll cycle the markers a couple times just to try to work the air out. Markers work. I ran them. I know the markers work, but I don't know. Teeter. Okay, marker valve is open. I don't know if you can airlock that shuttle valve or not. Dumbass, your markers are on the other remote. Look how that works. I don't know why I had it in my mind. Of course, I'd only cycled the markers on this thing the one time, but I don't know why I had it on my mind that the markers cycled at the same time the planter went up and down. It's on the second lever. So I was running the planter up and down, waiting for the shuttle valve to cycle the markers. I do think I'm gonna have to put some inline flow restrictors in this thing though, because them markers are cycling a little fast for my taste. It'd be nice if they were a little more controlled. Okay, so now I gotta get a tape measure and string it from the center of the planter back here to the marker, and we want 240 inches where the blade is hitting the ground. All right, so I got a tape measure strung underneath the planter. The 15-inch mark is set right in front of this row, so we're on the center line of the planter. And then we come out here and we need to get the center of the coulter to the 240-inch mark, and that's gonna damn near take up all the stroke we got. So hopefully the marker's short enough. At some point either they broke this arm off, and I don't know if that one's Teeter. Hold on, dog's running away. Somebody had to go see his neighbor's German Shepherd. Anyhow, this marker arm, I don't know if they bent it or broke it or needed it to be longer or whatever, and then they beat the living shit out of it right there. But whatever happened, they added like 6 inches into it. I can't remember if the other one's the same way or not. That one is not. So I don't know what the heck they got going on, but the marker arms are going to be a project, so they're going to have to wait till next year. Right now, I just need it to work. All right, other side's done. Whatever piece of whatever they got there for that little extension they welded in, or patch, or whatever they did to that marker arm, it's got like a piece of metal like bent over, almost like it was a hook for a chain at some point, and it won't let the Coulter extension slide all the way in like it's supposed to. So I had to cut 2 foot off of it. Actually, that'd be right about there. Maybe I might have to do the same thing with this. I had to cut it was 50, I think that tube was 54, and I cut it down to 32, so I guess we'll find out here. That one off too. All right, this time I just went off the end row unit, because if you go 135 off of the center of your last row, that'll give you 4 30s and then 15 to the center. So basically got 4 rows, and then this would be the center of the planter. So that way I didn't have to string the tape all the way under, but I wanted to do it all the way under on the first one just to confirm that everything was correct. I don't know what the heck they had going on, but there's set screw marks all up and down that Coulter arm, and I don't know why, because Coulter's, it's not, or the marker arms, it's not like that's something you change every day. It's kind of, you set it, and then unless you change the marker arm or change the spacing of the planter like we did here, you don't really, unless you're doing like seed corn or something, you're either running a 4-1 or a 4-2 pattern, but they didn't grow seed corn, so I don't know. But anyway, now the marker arms are set. That was pretty painless. Okay, so these guys are inline flow restrictors. They got that little teeny tiny hole in there. You can get them 2 ways. You can get them pre-drilled like this one, or you can get them blank. They look like a fitting, they just don't have the hole there. So you can drill them any size you want, but you can get them pre-drilled in various sizes and then modify them from there as you please. So all they do is you unhook your hoses and they go on in between the hose and the elbow. So I already did all my experimenting over here because I had to open the hole up to get my speed kind of where I wanted it. Because that's the nice thing about those things is you can adjust. If you start off small, you test it, see if that's how you like it, and then you just keep upsizing the hole till you get the cycle time where you want it. So I'll show you what the difference is, because that cylinder's got the restrictors and that one still hasn't been touched yet because I didn't want to make a mess on 2 cylinders. I don't know which one the valve is cycled on, so okay. So watch that guy. See how it sits down hard, and then watch the recoil coming up. Now watch that guy. It'd be nice to slow it down just a little bit more and take some of the bounce out of it, because I drilled it out once and it was just about right coming up, but it was just a little slower than what I wanted as far as like turning on the headlands and whatnot. So I sped it up a little more, but it's definitely a lot better than what it started out as, because you're not banging it as you're folding the marker up, because that's hard on pins and that's hard on the cylinder. It's better if everything comes up and settles together and does its thing. I might have to loosen that bolt up on that center pivot though, because it's got a catch in it. You probably saw it. It comes up a little bit, and then once it starts to cam over center, it's got like a and then it goes. I'm guessing it's got a... These markers are a project. Anyway, I got to get the other set of restrictors drilled out and get those put on that cylinder, and then the markers will be good to go. All right, I guess we'll see if she winds up. I filled the pump. I actually overfilled the pump, so it's probably gonna leak a little bit. Book said it holds a gallon. I thought it was all the way empty. Since I took that bottom hose off, I put a gallon in it and it was like right level full, and it's not supposed to be right level full, so there must have been a little oil floating around in it. But I guess we'll kick the PTO in, see what happens. Either it will or it won't, and if it won't, we got to figure out why. Blowing. Well, there we go. She's building pressure. Probably got air in it. It's probably why it's fluctuating. Feels like a decent RPM for, I mean, in the end, it's gonna be dictated by what gear I want to run in to get the ground speed, but 1600 seems like a decent gear to plan in, because you obviously got to be able to maintain pump pressure.
it's also not gonna hold steady or hold real steady either, because the plates aren't tight and there's no seat in them, so you're just blowing everything right past the seed discs. But if it'll build that much pressure with empty plates, it's got to be fairly tight as far as the manifold goes. No vibration in the fan, that's a good sign. Oh, hey, there's water in there. Get the water out, it holds pressure a lot steadier. I'll have to unhook it from the gauge and blow it out with an air hose. If she builds pressure, she'll plant. All right, well, we're pretty much there, but I just found out I'm gonna tear this the fan pump apart, because when it's running, there's oil coming out of the PTO shaft. It's not coming out under pressure. It's just kind of like gravity. And I was looking back in there, and you could see the back of you could see the pump housing, and I was like, okay, maybe that's an open cavity back there for some reason, and there's a rear shaft seal, and the rear shaft seal's bad. And that's not the case. You're not supposed to be able to see the back of the pump housing there. There's a snap ring groove just past the PTO splines back there, and there's supposed to be a steel plug with an O-ring groove cut in it with an O-ring in it, and that snap ring holds that steel plug up against the shaft splines, and that's supposed to keep the oil inside the pump. That's not there. And I'm thinking somebody's definitely had this pump apart at some point, because this appears to be a new seal. So I'm guessing that somebody had this pump apart and put it back together and forgot to put that piece in, or lost it or something, and now it's not there, so I got to put it in there so oil won't come out. But that's a fairly easy thing. The only thing is you got to get a gasket to split the case. You got to take it all apart. While I'm there, I might as well replace this lip seal, put that plug in there, basically check the pump over and go through it. But it's got to happen, because otherwise when it's running, again, it's constantly going to be puking oil out until it gets down to, you know, such and such a level. So how they were running it like that, I don't know, but it clearly had it. I mean, it has to come in from the back. It ain't like it can go out the front, because it's bigger than the splines. So we got to do that. But that's not that big of a deal. It's just a matter of getting the stuff to do it. So, yep. But anyway, that's pretty much all I got for you for today. I'm gonna get her folded up and parked and call her square. So that's it for this one, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.